Oh, unmute. Welcome to this live. I'm so excited to have you here. I've got my chat open and connected. I'm ready to go. We are talking about something really special today. We are talking about the love clarity method. And the gorgeousness of this work, the love clarity method, is its ability to be able to allow you to love deeply without losing yourself. Hello, how are you? Hi, Amber. Nice to see you. So, we are talking about the love clarity method, understanding how can we love deeply without losing ourselves. It is such an important topic because what is there in life if we cannot love the ones that we love deeply? So, welcome to this live. Welcome to this beautiful conversation. How to love deeply without losing yourself. If you ever felt like the more you love, the more you disappear, that you're wonderful when you are single, but as soon as you get into a relationship, you begin to lose yourself. I'm doing well, Amber. Nice to see you here. If you feel like that, then you are in the right place. Because if you've ever found yourself bending, shrinking, or sacrificing yourself to keep your love alive, only to feel exhausted and then unseen, then you know what? I'm telling you, you're not alone. Get in line. We have a whole group here. What if I told you that real love isn't about giving yourself up? That it's got nothing to do with putting yourself aside, as they tell us, to love others. Literally, people will say, you know what love is? Love is putting yourself aside so that you can love others. I'm here to tell you quite clearly it is not. It is not. Love is about knowing who you are and loving from that place of knowing. This method is about knowing how, the love clarity method is about knowing how to love deeply without losing yourself. And that's exactly what we're talking about here today. My name is Sanya Bari. I'm the founder of the Love Clarity Method. I am a therapist and coach and a specialist in narcissistic abuse, in relationship trauma, and I am a survivor of relationship trauma as well. So I'm here to help people love fully, deeply, without falling into traps of guilt, of over responsibility, of self abandonment. And today I'm going to give you the exact framework of how to stay whole without loving deeply. If you're here, drop in a heart in the comments. If you've ever felt like you've lost your love, you've lost yourself in the love that you have, in loving others, that you've lost yourself. If you felt like that, drop in a heart. So the first thing that I'm going to speak to you about is that why in the world do we lose ourselves? What is up with us? Why does that happen? Losing ourselves is not something that we plan to do. It is a default reaction that happens because of years of surviving. It is a survival response. Oh, am I muted? You can't hear me. Let's see. What happened? I'm not sure why I'm muted. Let's see. Okay. I feel like I'm unmuted. What do you guys think? Can you hear me? It would not be helpful if I was muted. I don't know. Am I muted? What do you guys think? Anyway, I can't tell if I'm muted or not, but I hope that I'm not. And so I'm going to continue this live and I'm going to tell you about the love clarity method and about its magic and what it can do for you. what I'm going to do is I'm also going to put on my Instagram here and go live right here. Okay, you got it right now. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, Amreen, for letting me know that I got it. Okay, so losing yourself in love comes from a place of survival. Most of us were taught that love means self sacrifice. We have years of conditioning where people have told us and shown us by the way they love us that love means sacrifice. But when love starts feeling like an obligation, a transaction, or a test of endurance, it's not love anymore. When love demands that you switch into various positions, that you be a chameleon, that you prove your love to someone, it's not love anymore. The four basic traps that are the most popular traps that most of us are trained to fall into, that we think are love but they're definitely not love, are guilt, which guilt over responsibility, role playing, and transaction. So let me go over each of them. Guilt is like, if I don't give everything, I'm going to be selfish. If you love someone with guilt, it is not love. At that moment when you're loving someone with guilt, or any of the other three that I'm going to mention, you also have love. This is about understanding where you are loving from more than just thinking that what I'm going to do is love. So, what I'm saying is, it turns out that what decides and what ultimately distinguishes the love that hurts you and violates you from the one that heals you and frees you is not about what we do in love. It's got more to do with where we are loving from. So these four love lies that I'm going to say out to you are the most common ways where we lose ourselves. And you want to pause and you want to check, am I loving from any one of these four places? Because if you are loving from any of those four places, then it's not really love. It is a survival instinct that's been coming on. It's a learned behavior. It can be unlearned. As I'm going to go over the four, and if you might discover that maybe, just maybe, I have loved from that place, don't go into shame and blame. This is about self awareness so that you can make a different choice. Because if we keep doing what we've been doing, unfortunately, we're going to keep getting what we've always got. And that's not always good news for us. So, the number one of the four love lies that I'm going to speak about is guilt. If you love from guilt, while you know that love was still present, if you use the habit of loving from the survival guilt, you are going to get a momentary relief of, I don't feel guilty anymore. It sounds very much like it's a very common thing we do. We might be moms sitting around in circles and we might say, oh, if he's feeling so guilty that I wasn't there for her play, so I got her this, or I did that, or I made her this. And this is very common banter that we have. It's not weird for us to speak like that. And who cares about what we are speaking as? The problem is that the way we speak, we end up thinking and feeling like that as well. And so we want to be very immaculate in the way we love, because if we love, we're doing the very difficult act of loving. But if we love from without being conscious of the place that we're loving from, we might actually accidentally hurt ourselves and the ones we're loving. It is so important for us to love. Life is about loving people. So why in the world wouldn't we become really, really clear on where we are loving from and be immaculate in that? So no loving from guilt. Taking the crown off, the guilt is not love. The bigger crown that I would want you to take off is the next love lie, which is over responsibility. Second love lie is, first was guilt, second is over responsibility. Over responsibility is taking responsibility for doing something for someone that they can do for themselves. A good example is putting clothes on a 4-year-old child and above. You can take over responsibility of tasks and you can take over responsibility of their feelings. Taking over responsibility of tasks sounds like, I don't I want you to have this. So I want it done well. So I'm going to do it well. I can do it for you. I'll do it. I can make that happen, instead of letting that person have the dignity of their process. When we take over something from someone that they can do for themselves, we right away give them the signal that you can do it as well as I can. And every time we take something over from them, we actually cannot take over responsibility unless the other person takes under responsibility. Over time, this dynamic becomes very painful. The one taking over responsibility starts to feel like they are being abused, they're being pushed to do more than they need to, they're feeling overwhelmed, and the one that's taking under responsibility feels managed and controlled. And both people feel underappreciated, they feel undervalued, and it's just hurtful, just unnecessary. So when we take over responsibility for other people, they become lower and lower in their courage to do things for themselves. And when they become really low, we might get really upset at them, because at that time, we're generally speaking very sick of doing everything for them. And because we have taken away the natural consequences of what they needed to do for themselves, we are then become people who are going to create unnatural consequences of what they must do. So it's very important to allow people to have the dignity of their process. It's loving. I'm going to admit to you guys right now that it's the hardest thing in the world to allow your children, the people that you love, to fail. When you know that you have the capability, the capacity, and the resources to fix it for them, to allow them to watch them not do it as well as you know that they can, or they could have had what if you were involved. But if you don't allow them to have the dignity of their process, you're going to have to later come back and do unnatural things, like put repercussions, put maybe punishments, take things away from them. And then you're going to be the bad guy. Rightfully so, because you're managing, you're over managing. So over responsibility, I want to take the crown off. Like, we give so much credence. When we talk about love, we'll say, oh my God, that mom she's just so wonderful, she does everything for her children. And we see this as some type of a praise, and I want to take the crown off of that. It's not something praiseworthy, because that person is just giving themselves the momentary satisfaction of something done according to how they wanted, maybe a perfectionist mindset or whatever. And I've been like that, so I can say it. I'm one of those people who have healed this. You get that momentary satisfaction, but you end up hurting the one that you thought you were loving, because then whatever you fixed for them still remains unfixed inside them. So that's over responsibility. It is not love. Taking over responsibility for another person's feelings is when we very commonly, I hear this, people say this all the time. I've said it so many times myself and no more, where I would say things like, I don't want you to feel bad. What? Like, I mean, if you just think about that sentence, Sanya, you don't want me to feel bad? What are you saying? You're going to manage my feelings now? Like, it is up to you what I feel? So when you do things thinking that you're going to manage people's feelings, this also comes in the fourth one, transaction. We're going to talk about that once more. That is how you take over responsibility for somebody's feelings. So the third one is role playing. Role playing is not the same thing as having roles that you play. It's like thinking that there is a fixed role. For example, if I have a fixed idea of what it means to be a mother, that I need to be that mother. I need to play this role as a mother. But so that means that my son, my child, is forced to play the role of a child, or what I think I've made up in my head a role of a mother and a child is. That's what we play. So when I do that, I fail to see my child for who they are, and I dehumanize them, and I dehumanize myself. I have constantly disregard my own feelings and what I want in my life, because I have this role that I'm playing, and that role has to take precedence over any reality between that I may have as a human, and any reality and humanity that my child has. When I play roles, I may be at the end of my life and I may think, oh my God, all I did My whole life was I played roles. And I never want to be in that situation. Maybe when I think back and there are a few moments of connection, those are moments where I accidentally got myself out of the role and got into the role that got out of the role and just connected with this person as a soul. And those are the moments that remain as endearing, as loving inside me. So that's role playing. And the last one is transaction. Transaction is simple. Like most people will say, hey, listen, I'm not that person. I don't really do things for people because I want something back. And I get it. That's the first thing that came out of my head. I was like, no, I'm not taking care of my kids because I need them to put me into diapers later. I'm doing it because I want to do it. But here's the other insidious carbon monoxide invisible side of transaction. The silent killer of transaction is that if I do this for you, you will feel good about yourself. If I do this for you, you'll be successful. You wouldn't want to kill yourself. You wouldn't want to hurt me or yourself. You would want to be inspired. You would want to do things. You can't. This is over management. And I want to tell you that another word for all of these things, guilt, over responsibility, role playing, and transaction, is manipulators. And in fact, when I came out with this method first, I did call these 4 love lies for self manipulators. The key insight that I want to leave you with is that love doesn't demand that you disappear, it asks that you fully show up. And the second insight that I want to leave you with is that if you want to have a loving that doesn't hurt you or other people, then it's not about what you do. You could do any of the things that you were doing before. It's about pausing and checking in with yourself and making sure that you're not loving from one of these 4 love lies. You're not loving from guilt. You're not loving from over responsibility, from role playing and transaction, because these 4 love lies pose as love. They've been told to us that they are love, but they are not love. They are what derail us from a love that already is inside us. So remember to pause, check, and choose wisely. Loving deeply doesn't mean losing yourself. It means knowing how to stay whole inside your love. Loving others has to come from loving yourself. If it's not coming through your own love for yourself, it's going to become something that's going to hurt you and the others. So for the next 24 hours, every time you feel the urge to overgive, to overfix, to oversacrifice, to lose yourself, just pause, check in with yourself if you're loving from any of the 4 love lies, and choose love. Pivot to love instead of pivoting from the survival type of loving. Notice what happens when you keep choosing one tiny moment of loving at a time instead of going into the default idea of loving from survival of these 4 love lies. Instead, loving from the love that you always had within you as well. If you're ready to break free from guilt, over responsibility, and transactional love, join me inside my Love Clarity membership where we go deep on this every month. DM me Love Clarity if you'd like to know more details, and save this and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Saying goodbye to all of you now. Love deeply, but stay whole because you deserve both. Take care, and I'm going to see you on my next live on Monday at noon. Every Monday at noon, I go live, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Goodbye.